and always will, is about moving humanity forward. And remember, folks, every act of kindness is a little love we leave behind. Hey, folks, the man with the pinky ring and the New York thing, forget about it. Bad Brad Berkwitt. And you're watching another episode of the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show on the Ringside Report web TV channel. So make sure you hit that button, whatever corner it's in, and subscribe. Leave your comments below the video. I always personally respond. And I want to welcome the several hundred new subscribers to my channel over the last couple of weeks that hit that button. Thank you so very much in the United States and around the world. I greatly, greatly appreciate you. And check out other content on this channel because I've had some amazing guests that are all moving humanity forward and fighting for democracy. And as well, check me out on Twitter at BadBradRSR. Again, it's at BadBradRSR. And finally, check out my great writing team on ringsidereport.com. All right, folks, I got a special guest today. It's been almost a month since my last show. And I told you I'm bringing the big names because these are the people that you have asked me to bring on. And these are the people that I'm going to try to continue to bring on the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show because their voices are important. They're fighting for democracy and they're moving humanity forward. So let me do my introduction and bring my guest on. My special guest today is a former Republican congressman from Virginia's 5th District and a member of the J6 Commission. As well, he is a New York Times bestselling author and the host of the popular podcast, The Mighty Peculiar Show on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome to my show today, the one and only Denver Riggleman. Forget about it.
Meeting is.
All right, well, good afternoon to you, Denver, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
If we have a little bit of a delay, folks, on my end, because it's not his end, I am a supporter of President Biden, but the high five, what was it called? Whatever it is, the high speed has not got out here yet. Fiber optics.
You need some high-speed fiber, man.
Exactly.
Yep, high-speed fiber.
So exactly, you got it better on your end. So hey, that's cool. I always start out all of my shows like this, Denver. If I have anything wrong in my notes, please say, hey, Brad, it's actually this, because the military and me, and like you, I like factual information. I can't stand disinformation, which I know is something that is a big bone of contention with you. So let me know, because we know that the internet is not always correct when I'm doing research.
You got it, man.
Okay, let's do this. Let's start out at the beginning, 360 conversation. It looks like you were born in Manassas, Virginia. And when I saw that, I had homes in Woodbridge, Virginia, not too far from you. And at first, when I thought about, like I told you offline, was Lorena Bobbitt and her. And I remember this, and I know you will too, probably, the T-shirts that said Manassas, a cut above the rest.
Yes, buddy, I even know right on 28 where I guess the cut off appendage was actually tossed to. That was like sort of because, you know, I was born there in 70. You know, I graduated from Stonewall Jackson High School in 88. So Lorena Bobbitt really put, you know, besides obviously the Civil War and the, you know, and Stephen Stills with the Manassas album and all that kind of stuff. But Lorena Bobbitt certainly put us on the map in a weird way, you know.
Absolutely. Talk about growing up in Manassas.
Oh gosh, I'm a native Manasshole, man. You know, so so I mean, I was born in Prince William County. You know, it's funny. People talk about Gen Xers, right, Brad? You talk about, you know, how we were raised. I really was. You know, I started out in an apartment. You know, it was 10928 Coverstone Drive in Manassas, Virginia, back in the 70s. If anybody knows it, it wasn't a great place back then. We had a bunch of kids in a very small apartment, and you know, but I played from, you know, dawn till dusk. And, you know, there was, you know, you had bullies, you had fights, you had, you know, the whole 9 yards. It was just a, you know, our most, you know, we had a really smart game, Brad. It was called Throw the Rock, and we would see who the first one would duck. And I got a huge scar, I think actually right here, from actually playing that stupid game. I didn't duck, which shows how dumb I am with politics too. So there you go, man. So, but no, unbelievable. Played some football, played some baseball, played a little basketball, but I didn't grow. but I was pretty good. I was a fairly decent athlete. A couple times I was a two-time state powerlifting champion. Just had a lot of fun in Manassas. Met my future wife. She went to Osborne High School. If
Okay.
anybody knows Manassas, I was a Stonewall Jackson Raider. So we started dating in 1986. So we married when we were 19, when I got kicked out of the missionary training center in Provo, Utah, because I wasn't the perfect Mormon. So I had a hell of a Brad. I had a hell of a life, man. I slept in cars. I've wrecked cars on purpose. I got in trouble a lot, but I never drank. I didn't drink till I was 31 years old. Own distilleries now, but man, it was the sort of the upbringing that when you don't have a whole lot of money, but you try to have a whole lot of fun by, my first car I bought for $1 from a junkyard. And it actually ended up, we destroyed that in a demolition derby. So yeah, I've had a hell of a life. Manassas was a crazy time, man.
Okay, I got to ask you two questions out of curiosity. So I got to that Woodbridge in '91. So you were around when Potomac Mills was just farmland, right? Before they built it in '85?
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. I know when Potomac Mills was being built. I was born in '70, Prince William County Hospital. And
Yeah.
I lived in Westgate Apartments, Coverstone Apartments, Loman Drive. My grandparents lived in Centerville, as you know, Centerville, Clifton area in Virginia. We played Woodbridge High School. Yeah, man. I mean, I am pure Virginia, Manassas redneck.
Okay.
So there you go.
And I got to ask you one more food question because I missed this place. I don't know if it's still good, but when I was there and I took Debbie there to eat, you know Dixie Bones?
Dixie Bones in Manassas?
It's off of it's in Woodbridge. It's off of when you come off the highway, that's Prince William Parkway. Yeah, Prince William. You go over the bridge. There used to be a club. When you come, there used to be Lazy Susan was up on the hill. You come across the bridge, there was a club down the hill. I can't remember, but it's called Dixie Bones.
God, I don't remember eating at Dixie Bones. I don't remember it, man. I must be losing some of my childhood memories or something.
Okay. I had to ask. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. All right. I want to talk about a little bit about your education and read something, then we'll talk about the other side. It looks like you earned your Associate of Arts from Rowan College at Burlington County, formerly Burlington County College, in 1996. Mm-hmm. You received an Associate of Applied Science and Avionics Systems from the Community College of the Air Force Air University in '96. Mm-hmm. And in 1998, it looks like you graduated a Bachelor of Arts in Foreign Affairs from the University of Virginia. Is that right so far?
Certificate 2007 or 2008. So okay. Of course, then the School of Hard Knocks too. I got a PhD
exactly.
in that.
So looking at your military time was 92 to 07. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Well, 92 to 03, 03 to 07. I see people doing that. I was an NSA contractor, but I was actually supporting NSA special projects in something called Big Safari in the Air Force.
Okay.
Which was top secret acquisitions and other things. So 2007, but I was the CSG, or the Cryptologic Service Group chief for counter IED operations in 2006, 2007. When Iran was supplying Iraq with IEDs, but I was a contractor then. Then I started my own company in 2007, and I was the CEO of that company until 2012 when I sold it.
You didn't work at JIDO, did you?
What's that?
Did you work at JIDO?
JIDO?
Yeah.
Yeah, the COIC, the Counter ID Operations Integration Center, was a joint NSA JIDO effort in the classified location, Northern Virginia.
Right. You were there.
Yeah, I was there.
Dude, I know you. I cannot believe this. It just dawned on me. I was in a security office, and I remember you coming to the.
What?
I was in a security office from 06 to 09. Damn it! I never liked you then. No, I'm just kidding. But we worked together. I just realized it. I just fucking realized.
Yes, Brad. I would have come. Yeah, I was there 2006 to 2007. We had a 14-man team in the middle. Remember, we had the OSINT Red team that was there. We had all the NGA guys. Cross-service integration.
Who was the guy?
Yeah, and that was.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I don't know if you remember. Thad Shaw was my business partner at the time. Well, we became business partners, but Thad was a 6'2" black guy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Thad, yeah, Brad. Actually, your name. When I saw your name, I'm like, that's stupid. There's because it looked familiar, but I'm like, there's no way. There's no
Dude,
way.
yes, absolutely. Because who was the GS? Were you on the same floor as me? I can't remember that. Where you were, or were you on a or
I was
downstairs?
on the ops floor. I was on the actual where all the intelligence systems were. Remember, they had the big circle. Then they had the SAP rooms, the
Right,
ACCMs,
right.
all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay, dude, I'm looking at your face like, damn. You know what? I didn't realize that. Yes, I do. I do remember you because you had I can't think. You had DIA. No, not DIA. DEA was on my floor. Okay. And then I
DEA.
can't remember
Yep.
the civilian guy that sat in the back, tall guy, kind of geeky, nice guy with glasses. I think Jim Westcott, I think maybe Jim
Oh
something.
my God, dude.
Did you work? You didn't
Yeah,
work for
because
him,
the
did you?
was no, I didn't work for him. The company, I don't know if you remember this, the company that was there, I was the first contractor, I think CSG chief for NSA, maybe ever, not quite sure, but the company was called I2S. Do you remember
Yes, of
that?
course.
Intelligence and
Yes,
Solutions.
yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I was with I2S at the time, and so I actually got pulled out of the counterterrorism mission management cell at NSA to run the COIC.
Okay, well, right, because I got hired on. Oh,
And Brad,
internet unstable now. It's internet connection unstable. Can you
yeah,
hear
you
me?
froze up there for a minute.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you. I got
Okay,
you.
yeah, because when I got
I can
hired
hear you
on,
now.
it was DMG, and then it went to Whitney Bradley and Brown, and our prime was oh shoot, what was the name of the company? I can't. I'm slipping now.
Hey, Brad, you're gone, buddy.
I'm gone. You can't hear me. Uh-oh. Let's see if I come back. No.
Hey, Brad.
Yeah, I hear you. Now we're
Hey,
frozen. Now
buddy.
we're
I think
back.
your connection's almost gone, my man.
Okay. Are you
Yeah, I can hear you every about 5 to 6 seconds. That's all I can hear you right now.
ah shit. Okay. How about now? If not, I'll log back out and come back in.
Okay.
Okay. Jeez. I don't know. We'll see. We'll keep going. Fucking I don't know why today I'm having problems. Can you hear me and see me?
Yeah, I can hear you and see you now.
Okay. All right. So yeah, no, I absolutely. I know. I can't think of what was it? Oh, not SAI. It wasn't SAIC. Was it SAIC? No. I can't think of it. We had two different primes. And because
I'm
you know,
trying
you
to
had
remember who it was.
whatever company, Sean something, I can't think of his last name. Sean and then
God,
the other one was through Booz Allen Hamilton because I used to deal with AFRL to get the clearances up in Rome, New York.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. My gosh, man. Great memory.
Small
Great
world.
memory.
Well,
Holy cow.
yeah, I can't believe I
Holy
did.
cow.
The
Yeah,
name
that
didn't
was
ring a
me out
bell.
there, man.
Yep. Okay, so let me ask you this: you did all your education, looks like in the military, correct? Unstable again.
I'm
You lose
losing
me?
Brad. I can hear you. I've lost you again, buddy. You're
All right.
frozen again.
Let me try something here. Let me see
Yeah.
if I go on another internet thing. Hold on. Let me try this. Now let's see if it gives me another one. Hold on. I may lose you. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Okay, next, let's see. Let's see if that's a better thing. Unreal.
Your bars are weird. They go from yellow to red
Yeah.
back and forth, and it'll be like good then bad, then good then bad. It's just so fast on my. It's just unbelievable.
Okay. So what about
Okay.
now? Are we good now?
Yeah, good right now. Right this second, we're good.
Okay. And it looks like I got a full signal. Okay. So
Okay.
looks like all of your education was through the military. So what the question off of that I want to ask you is, since we know Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't give a fuck about the military and told people don't go in the military, but you and I did, and I did a career. Tell the people watching the perk with the military paying for college, which is a big perk.
Huge perk. A lot of people are like, you bootstrap yourself right. I'm a self-made man. But really what it came down to is the military made me into a man. And the ability to leverage that for ROTC, to use the GI Bill, that really is somebody who came from a family that was lower middle class. And at the beginning with the single mom, we didn't have anything until she met my stepdad. it was rough. And so there was nobody paying for my college. There were, 18, 19 years old, you're on your own, brother. So for me, the military not only allowed me to grow up and find out who I could be as a human being, it also gave me the ability, to serve in multiple ways and allowed me to actually get an education. I think that's one of the things about the military. Yeah, you definitely can put yourself in harm's way, but if you're a good troop, you do the right things, right? And you're doing it for the right reasons, you can certainly improve your lot in life based on service. And I think that's what's so important for people to know.
Okay. You were in enlisted ranks as an avionics technician and then received your commission as an Air Force officer where you went into intel. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. We have a similar path. I was in a different radio when I first came in, and then I went into CT field. So what I'd like you to do is talk a little bit about your Air Force time and some of your career milestones.
Whoo! Dang, Brad. So yeah, so what's amazing is I joined in '92. I enlisted. I was 22 years old when I enlisted, Brad. So I got married at 19, and I think my wife, something really weird happened. The reason that I enlisted is this weird thing called pregnancy happened with my wife. Right? So so I had to do something, and she's like, "Listen, hon, you're a bit of a loser, and we live in our parents' basement. So if it's possible, could you actually get a real job and take care of us, or you're going to stay home with the baby while I work?" Because she had a great job. My wife is incredible. She was getting her accounting degree. She worked for EDS at the time. I think she worked for Barrios Technology, which Northrop Grumman bought at the time. She was on the Space Station Freedom Project. I was trying to eat at Golden Corral as much as I could, right? So, yeah. So about 3 days after we found out she was pregnant, well, about 3 days after she gave me the ultimatum, I joined the military, and actually, the baby was born about 2 to 3 weeks after I graduated from basic out of the Air Force. Now, here's what's weird. I think I had like a 1.1 GPA, maybe a 2.1 GPA when I went in. But while I was enlisted, I went to school full time, as you said, avionics, and then Rowan College. Got on the National Junior Honor Society, retook my SATs at 25, and there was a guy named Captain Schwing. I swear to God, that was his name, by the way, Brad. SCHWING.
Okay.
Brought me to his office. He goes, "Listen, Denver," and this is where I sort of got this statement. He goes, "Your IQ is barely above moron. Why don't you become an officer?" Um, so, uh, so applied for our, so applied for ROTC, and I think it was called SOAR, Scholarships to Outstanding Airmen for ROTC. And my dad, my biological father was an electrician at the University of Virginia. And I'm like, could I ever be a UVA? As a Virginia boy, nobody went to college in my family. Man, we spelled college with an A. So I'm like, what do we do here? And I got into UVA, man. And I mean, I got on the wait list to Princeton too, which was sort of cool. But yeah, retaking my SATs at 25, going through that hell, working 12-hour shifts as a knuckle drag and wrench turner, being very proud of my avionics background. But to be a Mustang, I'm pretty proud of that, to be enlisted and commissioned. And so I graduated, distinguished graduate out of my class, out of the UVA. I think I had the highest GPA in the class. And then I was a little bit too old to fly because I was an old fart on the 10-year college program. So they made me an intelligence officer, man.
Okay. What two or three things that duty stations or something that's unclassified that you could talk about that you're
Sure.
proud of?
Yeah, I mean, the coolest thing was going to Mountain Home Air Force Base. I'd been to McGuire Air Force Base as a enlisted troop. I trained at Keesler. So when I went to UVA, I went to Goodfellow Air Force Base down in San Angelo, Texas for intelligence training.
Mm-hmm.
And they had, we had our dream list, right? You had your wish list, and on my top 10, number 10, I think, was Mountain Home Air Force Base because I thought there was mountains there. By the way, anybody who's Mountain Home Air Force Base is a frapping desert. Anyway, so I got that, and when we got there, my wife and I are pulling up. I'm like, holy shit, what have we done, right? But the issue was, since I had prior experience in avionics, radars, and guidance and control, I was also, my degree was concentrated on the former Yugoslavia. No kidding, 3 weeks after I got to Mountain Home, they waivered me, and I was actually sent to the Romanian-Serbian border for Operation Allied Force.
Okay.
So here I am, second lieutenant, prior enlisted man, and I'm the senior intelligence officer in frickin' Romania.
Wow.
I mean, and with the first troops that have been there officially since 1946. This is 99. And, the fact that I'm not dead was a real testament to my luck, because trying to mess with Romanian and Russian mafia, Romanian and Eastern European intelligence services, the fact we were actually tracking Russians with mobile radars. I mean, it was an insane time, brother.
Okay.
So, but I got back from that, and since I lived and I wasn't completely stupid, they decided that I could train on F-15s, F-16, and B-1s. I actually got stick time on F-16s and B-1 bombers. I got to fight fighter pilots and F-15 simulators. I got to learn. I got to take apart weapons like AMRAAMs and AIM-120s. Brother, I got the star treatment just by just being at the right place at the right time. I just got lucky. And then NSA read me into joint programs with Air Force targeting, where I think I might have been one of 5 or 6 people to know about specific types of targeting solutions in the world at that time. And here I am now, a first lieutenant. And, that's the thing we were talking about earlier, is that the military, it allowed me to see what I could do, push myself to limits I never thought were possible. There's no way some an asshole, right, with half my family from Virginia and the other half from the Eastern Panhandle of West Virginia. There's no way I should be actually mission planning the first bombing runs into Afghanistan for 9/11, right? I mean, I got to do that, and how dare me go back to back to back from Operation Allied Force on the Romanian-Serbian border to training Omanis in 2000 on F-16s, all the way to the mission planning with the B-1s and the B-52s, hitting those first targets, I think on October 7th, 2001. I looking back, Brad, as you know, and I'm looking at your shadow box behind you, right? And it's amazing the things that you do that you almost take for granted when you get out. Here, me and you are talking, but when you look behind you and you look at my shadow box and things like that, you're like, holy shit, I earned those medals. I earned what I did, and I'm proud of them. So I got a chance to do things I think that people can only dream of.
Absolutely.
But on the other hand, the sacrifice for my family was huge.
Absolutely. And thank you for your service.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It looks like you founded Analytics Warehouse LLC in 2007. Is that about right?
That's correct.
Okay. And you were the CEO until 2015. Talk a little bit about that company.
Woo, man. I mean, you talk about a monkey humping a football trying to start a business, at 37 years old, but I did it. And, really, I didn't have any access, man. I was a captain, a former Air Force captain. But the one thing that I did was I had a pretty good work ethic, and I had a great reputation for taking hard jobs. That was it. And I was able to lever that into contracts with NSA, Department of Treasury, for OFAC, for Follow the Money, Air Force Big Safari, and some other special programs at Fort Belvoir that I can't really talk much about anymore.
It's the shop there.
But yes. So, right. So, yeah. So I was able to sell that company. Our first contract, I think we got in February of 2009. I started the company actually, God, I think, man, when did we incorporate? November of 2017. Me and Thad just busted our butt. It took us that long to get our first contract.
Wow.
So February 2009, and by April of 2012, we sold. So about 3 years and 2 months after our first contract. Now, I learned a lot of lessons. We sold too early, stuff like that. But, now I'm 42 years old, and I sold a company for some millions of dollars. And I'm like, wow, what is happening here? And again, that goes back to military, and that goes back to service. And it goes back to the fact that, I had just great people around me. I mean, I obviously, when you have, an analysis and, technology, it's perishable. If you're not in all the time as a CEO, I lost that hands-on.
Right.
So you got to find smarter people. And I really give it up to those who really cared about the company and the mission. Without them, I wouldn't even be here today. So again, it goes back to the people that you find in your life that really help you. And, but the company just was an incredible learning experience for me.
Okay. Out of curiosity, when you left the COIC, was Frank Larkin in charge?
I don't know if he was. The name is actually 100%.
I tell you where you know the name Frank Larkin from. He was the master at arms for the Senate. Little short guy, used to be a Navy SEAL.
Yes.
He was there when I left. He was there.
I should have went over
somebody else.
Yeah, and because it was who was the general walking around, the retired general that was man, the name it was just on the tip of my tongue, and I was going to tell you, he was a pretty famous Army guy that was really over all of the COIC. He was really the mastermind behind it. He had another
colonel. I can't think of who it is now.
Yeah, but I mean, I'll think of it as soon as we're done here.
Okay. and now it looks like a year before you sold, you and your wife opened Silverback Distillery, a 50-acre craft distillery in Afton, Virginia, outside of Charlottesville. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was about, yeah, I sold in 2012, but I was a CEO for,
To 15.
3 more
Okay.
years. So yeah, it
Okay.
was a year before I ended my reign at Endless
Right.
Warehouse. But yeah, that we opened, but we incorporated of April 2013. It's my wife's place, man.
Okay.
When I sold the company, I told her, she'd been following me around since we were 16 years old. So it was her turn. And I wanted to follow her, and she wanted to make liquor. So now we have the only mother-daughter master distilling team in the country. I think we opened on August 29th of 2014. So, and we sold I was done December 2015 with Endless Warehouse. So yeah, about a year and some change before I was done. I thought I was done with the DOD and the IC.
Okay.
Yeah, we opened our doors, and she's an amazing woman, incredible master distiller,
And
as is my daughter.
we make it back. Deb and I got to stop by. I like to see it.
Absolutely.
Okay. So it looks like in 2018, you defeated in a general election for congressional seat in Virginia District 5, Democrat Leslie Cockburn, with you getting 165,369 votes, 53.2%, to her 145,040, 46.6%. In that election, you served a 2-year term. What I want to ask you about that 2-year term is, what are 2 things during that term you're most proud of?
I think number one was is pushing the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act with children with congenital deformities. Probably my proudest thing. It actually passed as soon as I left, but I was really the main sponsor of that. And one of the most incredible things, maybe the number one thing that I did, was helping that family, and in turn, it helped so many other families. Just so proud of that. The other thing was my massive push. There's 3 things really, because the third thing is what actually got me kicked out of the Republican Party. Well, there's 4 things really. The second thing that was really important to me policy wise was rural broadband. I was able to bring tens of millions of dollars in infrastructure, just based on me working across the aisle with Democrats like Abigail Spanberger and things like that. Those are the 2 biggest policy things. I mean, I just fought tooth and nail for. I also voted yes for. I think I was one of 3 Republicans to vote yes to legalize marijuana too.
Okay.
And then, right. But then the things that I'm most proud of, as far as a human being, was officiating a same-sex wedding in July of 2019, which really started my downfall.
And I got a note. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Go ahead.
And the other thing was my war against QAnon. I was the first congressional representative, Republican or Democrat, to really go head to head with those wackadoos and shit stains. So that's really, I'm very, very proud of both of those.
Okay. And yeah, actually, we're going to talk about both of those things. Got a little bit further. Okay. In 20, it looks like the Republican, I call it the primary, he ran against Bob Good. Note about Bob Good, he voted no on impeaching Trump. I researched him a little bit. So obviously he's a Trump guy. And it looks like you lost to him. He got 1,517 votes. You got 1020, which wasn't that big of a difference. But what I want to ask you, in losing to him, and you kind of addressed it probably a little bit, that was probably your downfall, but what changed in the constituency that, because you only lost by a couple hundred votes, and that wasn't the gent, right?
No, he didn't. So what was the committee is almost Christian nationalist type of bent on the Republican committees here in the 5th district.
Okay.
And they did not allow a primary. They only did a drive-through convention. There was only 2,500 votes cast. They wouldn't allow a general population vote, because I would have won. So that was the issue, is that they had to disenfranchise as many people as possible. They're pretty much scumbags, anti-American as hell. But I tried to fight. But really what happened was, it wasn't just a gay wedding, right? It was the fact that I was very independent minded. But during that election, that drive-through COVID election at a church that was miles from his house, during that election, I had a sweet little lady. She called me to her car, and she goes, I really liked you, but I just don't think I can vote for you. And Brad, I'm like, well, why not, ma'am? I hope I can get your vote. She goes, well, I really like you, but I just can't vote for no fag lovers. And, I think, and they also had flags that said it was okay to be gray instead of it was okay to be gay.
Yeah.
With Confederate flags and stuff. So it was a really awful time for me, but it also was enlightening to me. That's really, I would say, that day, June in 2020, is when I really realized that I really did not belong. The Republican Party had left me a long time ago. And I always liked individual freedom. I thought that the less the government was in your life, the better. But I really believe that, right? I believe that people should be able to live like they want to live. But now I find myself more aligned with the socially liberal individuals, than I ever did with anybody in the Republican Party. So it's been an interesting evolution for me, where I thought I could be a new type of Republican, and it just did not work out. Everybody's like, "Oh my God, your political career." I never had a political career. I didn't give a shit. I served my country, in anonymity and being proud for decades. I had no political career. That's exactly what we should be as servants. We shouldn't look at politics as a career, but a chance to serve. Then you do the best you can in that capacity. And everybody's like, "Well, Denver, don't you want to continue your political career?" I'm like, "What political career? And who gives a rat's? I went to cooler parties in Oman." I mean,
Right. But
so
to your point, Deborah, when I was doing research on you, I was saying to myself, you're more aligned, even when you were a Republican, with your views. And we're going to talk about, you officiating a gay wedding and some of your views and what they went after you for. You were more aligned with the left than you were with the right. But like you said, the party left you. But, you talk about military service, that's why I have a heartburn. It doesn't drive me nuts that the commander in chief wasn't in the military, but as long as he has a respect for the military and he surrounds himself with solid military people, I can live with that part. But the fact that you have assholes like Matt Gaetz sitting on a fucking committee talking about the military, or Marjorie Taylor Greene telling people you shouldn't go in the military, and then of course trying to backpedal once they don't like what she said. But for the most part, you don't have anybody that served anymore in Congress or in government, that are sitting in these seats. And I'm not saying you have to, but they don't even respect the military. And Trump definitely didn't.
Well, it's when you look at the number of people in the military today, right, Brad? It's really shrinking quickly. Was it 1% or something like that of the population, maybe less?
Yeah.
You look at God, when I served, I wish I could remember the exact number, Brad. It was between 15 or 18% were military that were in there.
Right.
But the thing is that when you're looking at a Matt Gaetz or a Marjorie Taylor Greene, you got to remember they're fundamentally unserious. Also, they both have what as you've probably heard, me and they have the alligator mouth, puppy dog ass syndrome, right? Where they talk a big game, but they're always hiding behind sort of Trump's skirt, and that's really what it comes down to. And, and I dealt with these people like Matt Gaetz, right? I knew him in Congress, and the fact that they're so fundamentally unserious and they base all of their policies on fantasy and hyperbole, I think is a real danger to the American populace. And I think it's a danger to our way of life.
It is. It is. True or false question. I read a headline that said, after you criticized Trump, your mom texted you and said, "I'm sorry you were ever elected." Is that true?
That's true.
Wow.
That's true. I wrote about it in my book, The Breach, which, to this day, there's days I'm very proud that I included that chapter, and there's days I'm not, because of what it did. And, it's been a rough thing for me, but I was hoping actually it could be healing, but it wasn't. And I think what you're saying is that so many families have been ripped apart by those who have chosen Trump over their closest and dearest family members based on some bizarre belief system that makes no sense to me. And that's my fight, is I don't want other people to have to go through that.
And question, are you a never Trumper, or was there something that got you off of Trump?
When I don't think people know, my story is so insane. I was asked to run 4 days before the convention in 2018. I spent $0 and won my first convention by 1 vote. I'm an accidental congressman. And then when I got there, I automatically crossed the stream because I voted to reopen the government as a Republican, which for our district was awful. And I immediately was told that they were going to primary me. And that was a week after my first vote, first ever vote in Congress. So then I tried to play the game. I tried to vote, down the line with the Republican Party. They said, "You're going to lose. If you vote with us, we'll allow you to be more independent as you become more senior." And I'm like, okay, maybe it's a team sport. I made so many bad and good decisions trying to figure out what I even was, and then trying to rationalize votes, to stay Republican, because I just thought there were crazier people. I mean, the person I beat, the Democrat, was an awful human being. I mean, one of the worst people you could ever imagine. She's the one who accused me of Bigfoot erotica, as you know.
Oh, I know. I
So
read it.
that whole bullshit thing, and so just awful what I was going through from both sides of the aisle. And I think that's why I'm so fiercely independent now, Brad, is because I think if you belong to a tribe too much, you start to lose any perspective on what's important and what it means to be an American. So, it was just interesting that the whole time I was in, Brad, was me trying to fight my conscience. And I think the stress of it almost about killed me, trying to be independent, trying to play the game. I actually had a consultant tell me, he goes, Denver, you got to act a little crazy to beat the crazier people. You have to compromise your principles so the other people don't win that are really nuts, like Bob Good, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, like Matt Gaetz. I tell you, I lose sleep over the fact that I wasn't able to go full tilt crazy to keep these suckers out. But I would never be able to sleep anyway if I didn't finally come to where my conscience was. So service isn't easy, as you know, with military also, but in politics, we're not in a place where you can really have as many true statesmen or stateswomen anymore. You're to a place where hyperbole and outrage and really lying is sort of the baseline to get elected. And anyway, sorry, buddy, I went on a little bit of a rant there,
No,
but
no,
I think,
no. I know
you know,
it's about you. I'm going to read something. It's a little lengthy, but it's really relevant. It's something that I can't stand, and we're going to have a couple talking points. And this is
sure.
QAnon bullshit. So I want to read something for the viewers, and then we'll talk about it. You were, and you mentioned this a little earlier, you were and probably still are the only member of the Republican Party. I know you're not Republican now, you're independent party to speak on the House of Representatives floor against QAnon. You were a co-sponsor of the 2020 U.S. House Resolution 1154. Is that correct? Was that what it was?
Right.
Okay, condemning QAnon and rejecting the conspiracy theories it promotes. You were also one of the co-authors of the Network Contagion Research Institute, affiliated with Rutgers University, report called The QAnon Conspiracy. Is that correct? Okay. Destroying families, dividing communities, undermining democracy, which you wrote before the January 6, 2021 storm in the U.S. Capitol. And quote, when ideas or fantasy are weaponized, there's a metamorphosis from harmless, bizarre theories to a dangerous bloom of tribalism and dehumanization of others, you wrote in a report. This bloom expands digitally from person to person, absorbing and then converting a tribe that believes alternate realities based on a direct stream of algorithmically, okay, and group targeted data, ignorant analytic white papers, memes, ideas, and coded language. Since leaving Congress in January 2021, you've been working with experts and academics at the Network Contagion Research Institute to study disinformation and how to combat it. Is that all correct? That paragraph? Okay. Question. Again, you kind of alluded to it, but how frustrating is it to see a sitting congressman from the state of Georgia who says, and I lost somebody, not close, but when I was at the ceremonial guard, I knew this sailor who died in the Pentagon, and I'm going to call her a fucking bitch because that's what she is. She is a traitor to this country, and it's disgusting what the Republican Party allows her to do on a regular basis. It's not bad enough she slept with her gym trainer and everybody else and talks about morals, her and Bobart, but she pushes this shit, said a plane didn't crash into the Pentagon. Bullshit. She spins its Jewish space lasers and all of her bullshit. She got removed from committees, rightfully so. Now she runs the Republican. She runs that. She's got, I'm not even gonna say balls because he's got seeds, McCarthy. She's got his seeds in her purse. When you see her and other people in the Republican Party not condemning it, outright condemning it, and the old Republican Party, I tell people on the left because they get mad with me, I say, look, I don't care what you say. People like Jack Kemp, Bob Dole, Reagan, Bush the father, even Bush the son, they would not allow these fucking scumbags to be in their party. They would not. They primary them. They do whatever they need to do to get them out. That's how I feel. But now we're not there no more. Now it's, go along. And even Trump from the bully pulpit played with QAnon too. He didn't outright embrace it, but he said enough little bullshit, and a lot of little times he was at the bully pulpit. So my question is, when you see this, and you still do, how frustrating is it to you?
Oh, it's the Republican Party have allowed the crazies to crawl out of the basement into the light. And, when you're talking about Trump, he has completely embraced it. He truthed out him wearing a Q pen. We
Yeah,
also proved in that report you talked about that he was actually White House policy. For instance, the Obamagate, right? Subpoena Obama came from Q troll farms. So we proved that he was already reacting to QAnon very, very hard in the middle 2020s, even before that. And when you're retweeting WWG1 WGA, where we go one, we go all, Trump has completely embraced the QAnon message because there's so many votes there. When you look at the base, you're looking at still what 74%. I think it was the last poll support Trump in the GOP base. He's going to win this nomination.
yeah.
So when you see the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world saying things like being a 9/11 truther, or talk about the Rothschild lasers that started forest fires, what she did about liking posts about harm to Pelosi, the things that she's talked about are so outlandish and so ridiculous that you almost get to a point that you think that if the Republican Party isn't willing to condemn somebody like that, is the whole party rotten to the core? And when I looked at the text messages, you remember, as you know, we found the text messages or deciphered the Meadows text messages. QAnon type of conspiracy seemed to have saturated the entire Republican Party from base to the highest levels of the GOP. And I think it bothers me on such a level, Brad, it's hard for me to define it.
Okay. And then when you see people like Flynn's a piece of shit. I wish he was brought back to active duty or whatever they would do, court-martial his ass and throw him in fucking Leavenworth. He's terrible. What he's doing is terrible. Flynn is disgusting.
The uniform.
Right. And people want to give Kelly credit. I don't give John Kelly no credit. You know why? And you know this just as well as I. He's a Gold Star family member. His son was killed. You know that. But yet he let Trump attack a Gold Star family. Okay. And I don't want to hear, well, I did it because we needed parental guidance and to try to control. Okay, that only goes so far. But he knew when Trump attacked the Johnson family and she was pregnant, the widow, and he attacked the Congresswoman Frederica something from Florida. I can't think of her name, but she was in the car when he called. He didn't even know the guy's name. He didn't give a shit. And when he said, I quote, he knew what he signed up for. You son of a bitch, he died. He was beheaded. Not to mention he attacked the Khan family. I know the Democrats brought him out there and they posture a little bit. All politicians, we know how that works. But they're still a Gold Star family. And there's some things with me, they're untouchable. When he took the Purple Heart from the vet, because he always wanted a Purple Heart. See, a lot of people didn't go to Vietnam War. It was a shitty war. We know that history has a way of sometimes rewriting what was really true. What's that?
Being a little crystallizing, right?
What's that?
No, history could be crystallizing.
Exactly. Right. But the thing is, he took 5 draft dodging deferments. A lot of rich kids did that, but he lies about it. That's the thing. He lies about it when it's known. But Ronnie Jackson writes him a fucking letter and says he's the greatest, he's the stud, and he's the greatest shape in the world. That's another alcoholic. You saw the video with the rodeo when he got in trouble with the rodeo. That fucking guy. Don't even get me started, because I know people that know Ronnie. He won't interact with me when I go after him on Twitter. But I know people that know Ronnie. He was a piece of shit as an admiral in the military. So, but
when you look at the IG reports on Ronnie, I mean, it's unbelievable, right?
Oh, I know.
It's unbelievable, this guy.
I want to read something else that's a little lengthy, but it's really pertinent to your story, and I want viewers to hear this because it moved me, but it shows how important it really is. And that is your farewell address. I want to read it, quote. On December 11, 2020, you gave a farewell address on the floor of the House. You said your experience as an Air Force intelligence officer taught you the invaluable lesson of considering the source when examining disinformation. You stated that a well-instructed and knowledgeable people are the pillars of a functional republic, and that those pillars are now being assaulted by disinformation and outlandish theories surrounding the presidential election. Riggleman added, as we transition to a new administration, I implore all to consider the sources of information you receive, to fact check diligently, you pleaded, asking your fellow Americans to recognize that many bad actors who spread spurious, and fantastical conspiracy theories under banners like QAnon, Kraken City, pal, Stop the Steal, Scamademic, I didn't even heard of that one, and many other emotive terms and coded language are not disseminating information rooted in knowledge, but with questionable motives and greed. When I saw greed, I said, there's Trump to a T. They are rooted in misunderstanding or fraud, or in some cases, ignorance. You told all those on the end of the disinformation fire hose that unbiased, fact-based information sustains our is that how it was? Sustains our republic. Adding that disinformation hinders our free exchange of ideas and creates super spreader digital viruses that create a fever of nonsense. You ask the audience to remember that people are more important than party, and that pandering is a political sickness. I want to bravo, because it drives this show that I do. I try to keep it as factual as I can. That's why I always start out every single show, even if it's not politics. I want it to be as true. I know people could tell, some stories differ and opinions, but facts are facts. And that's when Kellyanne Conway got up there with her bullshit, alternate facts, and don't even get me started on George Conway. If he's a friend of yours, I don't care. He's full of shit too. He's a grifter.
I know he's not a friend of mine.
Yeah, there's no way. There's no way.
If he was, I would tell you. If he was an enemy, I would tell you. He's just not. He's just a person I know of. I don't hang out.
Yeah, I don't buy into George. Plus, he was part of Federalist Society. There's a lot of bullshit with him. But Kellyanne Conway was the point with these alternate facts. There's no alternate facts. Facts are facts, and Trump has. I've never seen anything like it before, and it's tearing the country apart. And what the party is doing behind this guy. I don't agree with I lean blue, but I don't agree with everything with the Democrats. And if Hunter Biden is guilty, lock his ass up. If President Biden is guilty, then lock him up, and Vice President Harris becomes the president. If she's guilty, lock her up too. I hate to see that happen, because then McCarthy becomes president. But if that happens, it happens. But this to stay behind him with all of he's done. But I wanted to read that out because I wanted to commend you. I want to talk about you officiating, as you said earlier, the same-sex wedding. And it looks like that was probably the start of when the Republican Party really had it hard on for you in your area. Here's what I always say. A lot of people say Democrats make promises that in elections that they don't keep. Okay, well, Republicans had an opportunity, in my opinion, to dump Trump, become inclusive and not exclusive, still be conservative, still have your conservative values, and but be inclusive of people. How are they attacking you? Look, I always say this: if you don't like homosexuality, that's your American right. You don't have to like it. But what I have a problem with is this: I'm an ally of the LGBTQ. I fight for them day and night. But here's my thing: you don't have to like the lifestyle. But what you don't have a fucking right to do, and I won't allow it, or anybody around me, or I see on the internet or whatever, if I have a chance to say so, is to treat anybody less than because they're gay, because they're transgender, or whatever they are. And
agreed.
But the Republican Party is not inclusive. They attack them they're getting them killed with rhetoric that's not true, with stuff that is not true. And all these times with Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about pedophilia and grooming, I'm seeing a hell of a lot of Republicans and a hell of a lot of religious people being outed as pedophiles and groomers and everything else. I don't know how Matt Gaetz got away with what he did. Maybe finally he'll get his comments, but we know his partner went down. These people are rotten. So I commend you on that. And when I was researching, I said, you lean more to the left with the way that you are. But I was curious, when you were a Republican congressman, what was the foundation? What was your conservatism that made you go Republican?
Interesting, made me go Republican. I was a pretty strong Second Amendment guy. I was always sort of conflicted about the pro-life, pro-choice issue, which I've actually, to be honest with you, buddy, I've almost gone to the point that, I still have a tough time personally with abortion. But on the other hand, I just think it's between the woman, the family, the doctor, and her or his God, if they have one, right?
Yes.
And so I'm getting there too, but I really was fiscally conservative. I really do worry about regulatory overreach. So my whole thing when I got in was fighting regulatory overreach and overtaxation for small businesses. And I was pretty good at that, right? People really came to me about how much I knew about small business generation, the tax codes for certain states. I mean, I was really good at it. So I'm like, I'm a fiscal conservative, right? But even on that, as I got in there, I noticed that, listen, the voting just goes with the polling and the fundraising. It's really not about your beliefs or what you think is right or wrong. It's how the base is driving you. So it was a really harsh learning curve for me that everybody said, Denver, you're sort of like this odd conservative, but you're actually not. You're almost like this socially liberal libertarian that wants small government. And I'm like, well, but I'm also very strong on foreign policy, Brad. So what am I? I I don't know what I am. I'm an American, I guess, but I have my views are strong foreign policy, which is anti-libertarian, right? I think we should actually absolutely help other countries, push back against any overreach, right? I mean, that's just how I'm wired. So it's just interesting. I'm like a I don't know, neo-libertarian, not a libertarian, socially liberal, but sick of government overreach guy. What the hell am I, man? Um, it's just, right. It's just an interesting thing. And when you were talking earlier, we were going to have a whole nother podcast because I was a senior technical advisor on the January 6th committee.
That's the next talking point.
I was also hired by the Hunter Biden team to do all of the forensics for his
I know
devices.
that too. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So it's just interesting that you said that because even when I talked to the Biden team, they're like, "Hey," I said, "Listen, I'm not pro Hunter. I'm not anti Hunter. I'm pro facts." And they said, "What?" And I said, "All my stuff is discoverable, so my stuff had to stand up in a court of law." So it's been interesting that you have Hunter's lawyers and his friends and things like that. And I know Hunter well, and he's really done an incredible job in trying to change his life. But he also knows I'm a pro fact guy, so it's interesting my relationships with people on the J6 committee and Hunter. I think it's all good, but they look at me with side eye sometimes, like he knows a lot. He's got all that data,
Yeah,
So
that goes back to you said there was something earlier that I read. This is how I feel. I'm actually an independent, but I lean blue. I vote Democrat because I'm a New Yorker, but we're out here, and I call Mike Peanuts because he's a dick. Because there's no way. I'm also, I don't do the co-signer. I don't know how Mother. They wanted to hang him, and Mother and her daughter were there. How does she not, when he comes, I'm kind of get off topic, but I'm spun up. So how does he come to bed and lay in the bed, or in their single beds like Ricky, Ricardo, and Lucy, whatever they do, whatever, that's their business. But she was there that day. They were going to hang that son of a bitch. How do you not put country, and you still, I don't think that they should prosecute Trump. And that's bullshit. I don't care if it's Democrat, Republican, Independent, Green Party. If you're guilty, your ass is guilty, you need to go to prison. But I want to talk about the J6 Commission. Let me read something and we'll talk about that. On August 6, 2021, you were appointed to serve as a senior staffer to the United States House Select Committee on the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. In April 2022, you sent a letter to the committee chairman, vice chairman, informing your decision to leave the position in the coming weeks. Is that right so far? Okay. On January, now this is a question I want to get your part of this story. On June 2nd, 2022, you appeared on Anderson Cooper 360. On June 3rd, Politico reported that the January 6th committee staff director and former CIA Inspector General David Buckley said in an email to staff, "I want you to know that I'm deeply disappointed in Riggleman's decision to discuss the select committee work on television in direct contravention to his employment agreement." What I want to ask you off of that is, what is your rebuttal to what he said? I want your words.
Yeah, he was full of shit. Didn't get along with him anyway, and there was no employee agreement. There was no NDAs. It's just apps. And by the way, they leaked that to try to hurt me because they didn't know what the book was going to be when I wrote The Breach. There were definitely certain people on the committee I didn't get along with. As a former member of Congress, you know what? I'll do what the hell I want to do for the good of the country at that point based on my access. And so what it came down to is I knew a lot, and they knew that. They tried to diminish it. There are people in the committee who loved me, people who hated me, and that's exactly how I wanted it. As far as Dave Buckley is concerned, you talk about that individual. That's a person who had an IG complaint about intimidating whistleblowers. So I really couldn't give a shit what Dave Buckley says or thinks. And that's, and the fact that it was leaked was obviously, from somebody who did not like me. And the fact that he would send that email so specifically and it was leaked the next day, everybody in politics knows that was a hit job. I also know it could have been a couple of members that were sitting on the committee who I did not like, and they didn't like me. You got to remember, I was a Republican coming into a largely Democratic committee. I also crossed streams, with even some of the Republican members on the committee, because I thought that we should be more aggressive on the data side. And I thought that a lot of what we were doing on the interviews was a waste of time, and I was very outspoken about that. So I thought the committee did a great job, nonetheless, and in some ways. But I think we missed the whole command and control infrastructure issue of this, and we weren't aggressive enough on the data side to do what we needed to do. So, yeah, as far as that's concerned, that statement was completely false. But on the other hand, it's water under the bridge. I mean, now you're talking how many years ago, right? So now it's, over a year ago. It could be that people were under pressure. I try to give them the benefit of the doubt. But as far as going to dinner with anybody who might have leaked that or sent the email, that's never going to happen. And so it's just, you know what? It doesn't matter, right? That really the public got a pretty good report from a group that did the best they could based on the resources they had and the experience they had. I was able to write a book. I think that's really the book about data. Did not go after the committee at all, which you found out after the book came out. They got really quiet, didn't they? Because then they figured out my book was specifically about data, wasn't about throwing them under the bus. Why would I do that? So I think that they misunderstood the situation. You had people who maybe weren't very good at the political arena, maybe people that were very unsure about the work they were doing, people that knew that more should have been done, and they felt very defensive and they thought they should attack me. The issue is, you attack me, you better pack a lunch, because you can see I do not back down. And by the way, I'm a former congressman of the United States. I don't give a hell what a staff director says. I don't give a hell what anybody there says. I'll do what I need to do, because nobody there, I had more experience in counterterrorism analysis and data analytics than everybody combined. I had more intelligence experience than everybody combined. I was the man. That's why they brought me on. And if they don't like it now, don't give a shit, because everything I say can be backed up by facts and data and sourcing, period. Okay. So that's why I sleep so well at night. And on the other hand, again, you never know. We might have a beer together one day with some of those people who wanted to leak that crap, but I doubt it. And I don't really give a shit.
Okay. And I wanted you to rebut that. You kind of addressed it, but I wanted to ask you off of that. And you talked about it a little bit, but let's pinpoint it. What are two things that you think the J6 Commission knocked out the park, and what are two things on the other side that they didn't go far enough? You kind of addressed it, but let's one more time for the viewers. Didn't go far enough or didn't do at all that you would have liked to have seen?
But they knocked out the part with Trump's intent. The attorneys, I think Cassidy Hutchinson was key to this entire thing. The fact that they were able to get her to testify. They got Sarah to testify. They got the attorneys to come in. I thought Rusty Bowers coming out of Arizona, I thought was a huge get. I think that they were able to really show how the top down vision and mission of overturning the election in a way. I think that was just absolutely superb. I think what we missed was a real concentration on the lower tier players who are really part of the organization. The Roger Stones, Alex Jones, Mike Flynn's, Steve Bannon's, Sidney Powell's, Patrick Byrne, Mike Lindell, right? And even like the ASOG, right? The people that did the stupid, Phil Waldron, Seth Keshel, right? All the people that were involved with the ridiculous, cyber type of investigations that were completely false. But we also, I don't think, delve into how close we were to military action, right? The memos that were being sent to Meadows directly from these lower level players, like Waldron, right? And the fact that Meadows was tracking these investigations in Antrim County and things like that. I think the command and control infrastructure of follow the money, the financial issue, and the protection of the capital that day, the intelligence breakdowns, I think all of those needed to be covered more extensively. They touched on them a little bit, but there definitely was much more work that needs to be done there. Again, though, when you're talking about on the other side of the ledger, as far as identifying Trump's and what his actions were that day and what he didn't do, in that vein, I thought the committee did a great job at that.
Okay. Got to ask you the question that whenever I have vets on, I had Jack Hopkins on recently.
Jack,
when you, as a veteran, saw veterans go to the Capitol on January, this is where I stand, and I'm not backing down one bit. I'm a veteran against Trump. Any veteran that went to that Capitol because he said, I know he wasn't all of it, but he was a big part of it, that the election was stolen. He started that shit. He actually started that shit in 2016, as you know. But any veteran that went to the Capitol on January 6th, I feel, should be locked the fuck up They shitted on their oath. They shitted on the oath that you and I took. They don't have any respect for the Constitution, and they should lose any VA benefit that they have. I don't care if they got mental. I don't care what their issue is, because you got veterans like us that honor our oath and put country over party and speak out against this shit and knew better. Okay, I understand. People can get in a cult. People can, be duped. But what they did on January 6th was and beating up the police and all that shit. Where do you stand with a veteran that went to the Capitol?
Hard to get your arms around, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, to do something like that, to think that somehow, well, here's the issue, and I've addressed this. We took this oath, right? All enemies, foreign and domestic. So now you have military veterans, some well trained, some not so well trained, that believe that somehow Trump is correct as commander in chief at that point, and that they needed to take back their country because they're actually defending this country from all enemies, domestic, but it's foreign also because they bought into the foreign interference of the election, whether it was Italian satellites or broken algorithms or white vans burning ballots and all the crap that came out from QAnon adjacent and QAnon specific conspiracy theories. Back to my speech in December of 2020, right? So I think that's the issue that I have is how do we retrain or how do we re-blue those who have gone completely wackadoo, right, in defense of somebody who lies to them and really is just mining them for money, but mining them for support by utilizing hyperbole, outrage, and fantasy to push them into a course of action that in a military mind course of action, they're trying to save the country from the deep state of the globalists, right? Or the basement dwellers at the Comet Ping Pong. I mean, it's unbelievable to me, right? So I don't know how to turn that, but I say there's a significant portion, not a huge, but I think there's a minority population in the military that I think lean that way regardless. And buddy, we met them, right? You meet those guys who are automatically drawn to sort of this, they're an action figure in their own movie.
Yeah.
Right. And they somehow think they have all the answers and they're just portraying, really arrogance through ignorance. Right. And that is something that's very difficult, I think, for us to stop. And the fact that they did that, it's almost damn close to unforgivable. But on the other hand, as fellow veterans, how do we reach out and say, listen, man, listen, woman, listen, guys and gals, here's where you need to get back into where you actually are faithful to your oath.
But they don't. They don't want. I get attacked by them all the time. I get attacked by them. Yeah, I get attacked by them daily. They don't want to. They want to Thelma and Louise with this fucking guy over the cliff. They don't care. They want to get a Thunderbird. They want to go with him. I've never seen it. And they always say Jim Jones. Jim Jones used religion, which is very powerful, as we both know. This guy doesn't use religion. He just fucking lies.
I will. Here's the one thing that I would want to tell you. I think he does use religion. When you look at the laying on of hands and you look at these new religious groups that are behind Trump, like the New Apostolic Reformation, the NAR, you have United in Purpose, the UIP, you have the Seven Mountains Dominionism, you have all these evangelical groups. Think about Greg Locke. Right, that crazy.
Right. No, right. I know you're going to
have this. So QAnon, Trump, and these new Christian nationalists. Remember, Marjorie Taylor Greene self-identified as a Christian nationalist.
Right.
Actually, Trump is the imperfect vessel for the perfect godly mission.
Yes.
So that's the issue that you have. Is that I do believe that a lot of our fellow veterans, but also a lot of people that a lot of the civilians, I do believe they think that this is a mission from God, right? That this is
and I agree with you there. And that aspect, I do agree, they're religious. But he's not like Jim Jones. He can't quote scripture. He can't hold a Bible up the right fucking way. So, I mean, yes, they use him as a useful idiot like Mitch McConnell did, but he can't say religious stuff. He doesn't even go to church. I mean, that aspect, of it. He doesn't preach from the bully pulpit. You know what I mean? I know they're behind him, the religious groups, but if you ask him his favorite scripture, he can't tell you, which that. You saw that interview.
That's why he's around, Paula White is his spiritual advisor.
I know.
He definitely surrounds himself with those who give him the backslap and they anoint him right as a prophet on earth based on what he does. So it's an interesting dynamic when you have somebody who's supremely non-religious being looked as a digital prophet, for the masses.
Well, I've said it, and I'm not trying to be funny. I mean it. If Jesus were to come back, he's going 0 for 2. Because if they're picking Trump or Jesus, they're picking Trump. If they say who we're going to
Jesus,
crucify, it's going to be Jesus again.
that's because Jesus turns the other cheek and Trump doesn't. And I think that's
Exactly.
why they would pick Trump over Jesus right now.
Exactly. Let's talk about your podcast, The Mighty Peculiar Show. Tell the viewers, if they watch an episode, what to expect.
It's funny, but we are so brutally facts based. Like Brad, right? You went and fact checked all my stuff, right? Sourcing, right? We are so brutally fact specific and data specific. What we try to do is we try to take away the threat so people will actually listen. So it's been a sort of a tightrope because I wanted to do this show and I got signed by some major, individuals who wanted me to do something, but it was just too political. So I'm funding this myself. And by the way, it's sort of growing. So it's weird. I never thought I'd get thousands of downloads, just something I'm doing myself. So it's pretty neat. And but yeah, we're growing slowly. We've only had 10 or 11 episodes, but they've been really cool. I got a really good producer, a really good songwriter. We do our own music. Got a really good guy who's a comic book writer. And then, we use all that data and facts-based research, facts-based insights, and then try to wrap some humor around it. But sometimes it gets pretty serious and people can check it out. It's great. I'm going to do it regardless if it makes a dime or not. I really don't give a shit. But yeah, so I'm paying them out of my own pocket and paying off for all the gear and doing it ourselves because I figured I needed to be independent, Brad. That's the honest truth of it.
There you go. Last talking point before we segue to the second half of 360 conversation, fun random questions. One thing which was a common thread through all the research I did on you, Denver, is Bigfoot. So I want to read this. In 2020, you released a book titled Bigfoot, It's Complicated, and described yourself as a Bigfoot scholar, despite that you don't believe in the creature's existence. That's what I read. So my question is, if you don't believe in them, is the joke on us? Because I know you like to kid around. What's the deal with Bigfoot? How do you be a scholar but you don't believe in Bigfoot? Explain, please.
Well, this is a great question because Bigfoot is complicated. It wasn't about Bigfoot. Bigfoot is complicated was about Bigfoot believers.
Okay.
And I tried to figure out a way. And Brad, I think you have to try to figure this out too. How do you get across something so threatening as cults and conspiracy theories and people who have belief systems that are crazy? How do you do it in a non-threatening way? And what I wanted to do with the Bigfoot book was to present the 4 different types of Bigfoot belief systems and how they are actually duped and how money can be made off Bigfoot believers. It's a grift. So, and I just really quickly, there's 4 different major, now there's a bunch of sub-belief systems. People could say there's 4 or 5. It's like arguing religion. But there's the BEs, the biological entity believers, who believes Bigfoot's just a missing link, either a Gigantopithecus blackie, an ape, or Homo erectus, some kind of missing link between ape and man, or from one of those lineages. There's the magic man theory, which is really the Nez Perce. Which is the Native American mythology, which is really that he can take your soul with your eyes, great spirit, put stick man or Oma on the planet. Then you have the interstellar theory that Bigfoot's a UFO lover, right? Likes to be down here with the Zeta Reticulans and the little green men and orbs. And he's a big, he's an interstellar type of creature. But the 4th one is actually gaining a lot of power. That's the spiritual Bigfoot, or the Quaventalur, the interdimensional Bigfoot, that's protecting us from beings from the harmonic universes in this 200 million year plus war of these 12-strand DNA beings trying to take over the world. So those are the 4 major belief systems. And so I wanted to try to present it in a non-threatening way to teach people about cults and mythology. And it was that book, which is about cults and mythology and protecting ourselves, that they used to go after me for Bigfoot erotica. So they use disinformation to go after a book about disinformation. It's a very ironic thing.
Jeez, that's more about Bigfoot than I ever heard in 4 things. So I got to ask you, maybe I have something over you, Bigfoot scholar. Did you see the 1976 episode of $6 Million Man when he had Bigfoot on there?
It's in my book. It's in Bigfoot, It's Complicated. So I talk about the interstellar belief system, and I go over the whole episode when Steve Austin ripped the arm off of the robot, created by the aliens, the robot Bigfoot. So absolutely, buddy. Come on now. I know all about Steve Austin, the $6 Million Man, and his war against Bigfoot.
Did you ever go to Universal Studios back in the day and they had it? I actually interviewed the guy who rewrote the whole tour, Mike Sington. He worked there for many years as in the top brass. But back in the day when I went there in '76 with my dad, oh, you still there?
I'm still here. Oh, absolutely.
Oh, wait a second. What is this saying? Okay, hold on. I got something that I've never got before. Talking about your session expired. It can't. How does it expire when I got the paid for thing? This is crazy today. Hold on. Hope I don't lose you. Hold on. Okay. I don't even know what's going on. I think Bigfoot, the aliens. I think they're coming here to get me. It's either that or Republican Party.
Or QAnon.
Yeah, QAnon. I just got a thing that said your session expired. Boy, this
Mine
show,
still says recording.
okay, mine does too. We're gonna see what happens here. Okay. Oh, well, I was asking you, did you ever go to Universal Studios when it had the thing where you remember they went through the tunnel and the thing was going like this when he was chasing them? They used to have it on the tour, believe it or not.
God. No, I
Okay.
never saw it. I never saw
All
it.
right. Well, let's do this, Denver. Let's segue to the second half. Fun random questions. And we're going to start out like this. First one is, what is your favorite genre of movies?
Favorite genre, I think, would be actually thought-provoking thrillers.
Okay. What? No kidding. I figured like that's a no-brainer, right? So, what's a movie you could put in over and over again, never gets old?
The Edge with Alec Baldwin and Anthony Hopkins.
Okay. What is your all-time favorite or one that you never miss an episode of TV show? Old or new, doesn't matter.
Sopranos.
Soprano. Okay. Who is your favorite character? Tony?
Tony.
Yeah. Okay.
After that, Paulie.
Yeah, we just lost Paulie, last year, a year before?
I know, we did.
Yeah, I met him at the Boxing Hall of Fame. He was like what you saw in The Sopranos with the hair and all that. He was like that in person. Double-breasted suit, pinky ring, the whole shtick.
The whole shit. The whole
shtick. What is your favorite musical band?
Van Halen with David Lee Roth.
Okay, mine too. I mean, that's why I picked David Lee Roth. Yeah, I like Hagar, but he's not Roth.
Nope.
Top of your head, and you kind of said one, and it might be it. If that's the one you want to go with, that's fine. Most memorable childhood memory? Throwing rocks?
No, that was the most memorable pain. As a child, my most memorable childhood memory is probably being a sewer diver. When I was between the ages of 7 and 9 years old, we would actually navigate the massive water tunnels underneath Coverstone, and we could go for miles. And I remember a kid actually went missing at 8 or 9 years old. The cops asked me to help go through the sewers to find a kid that was missing down there. So that was probably my most crazy childhood memory.
Did you find him?
Yeah, he was actually had been taken by an older gentleman to another apartment complex, so it was not a good thing. Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Okay. What is your favorite noise or sound you like to hear?
My favorite noise or sound that I like to hear? My favorite sound would be honey, come to the bedroom.
and flip that now. What's your least favorite noise or sound? Honey, I got a headache.
You got it. You got it.
Okay. What is your favorite food?
Favorite food. I can tell you my least favorite food is beets. My favorite food, I would say, food is also about where you're at in time, right? So I'm going to tell you my favorite food is walleye, freshly caught in a Canadian lake in Quebec, where I go to fish and fly in fishing, made with our own cornmeal, right? And cooked over a fire. I would say that freshly caught northern walleye made with our own recipe while sitting on the edge of a lake where nobody's within 100 miles of you is probably my favorite food.
Okay. What is your guilty pleasure? I'm scared to ask.
Oh, goodness. My guilty pleasure. I can't answer these questions. This is my guilty pleasure, honestly. When I was a kid, one of my other memories is the one thing my grandfather would get me is vanilla custard, vanilla soft serve, big old vanilla soft serve cones. So I'd say my one thing, and people will know this about me, my closest friends certainly do, my friend, is that I will not pass a soft serve location without getting a massive vanilla soft serve ice cream cone.
Okay, delicious. What is the first job on or off the books you ever had?
Illegally selling flowers to offices when I was 15 or 16 years old, and the first time I was chased by cops was trying to sell flowers out of a white van in the 80s.
Okay. What is your favorite? It could be with the wife, vacation destination.
Oh, by far, it's going to be Inverlochy Castle in Scotland.
Okay.
Yep,
All
by
right.
far.
Okay. If you could meet, Denver, one person from any time in history, dead or alive, any walk of life, who would you like to meet, and what would either be your first question or some things you'd like to talk about?
That's a brilliant question. The one person that I would want to meet in any walk of life in history
In
from the
history,
beginning.
dead or alive, obviously.
Good.
You never know with
Well,
QAnon. Trump will never
that's
die.
right.
Let them tell it.
Okay, I think the one person I would want to talk to. See, this is interesting because there's so many, but there's one time in history that I would like to talk to somebody right before it happened. And I would think I would want to talk to Harry Truman about his thought process the night before the Hiroshima or Nagasaki bombings.
You know what's interesting? I got to tell you this. My last three guests, this is very interesting to me because I love doing interviews, been doing them for decades, have picked Harry Truman. You, Jess Piper. I don't know if you know Jess Piper, you follow her on Twitter.
Mhm.
She ran for office, she's a Democrat. And Jack Hopkins. They all picked Harry Truman. And I made a point to say this: the difference between the country and look, the country's never been perfect and it's never going to be perfect, but we have the potential to be so much better. That's why I hate that slogan, "Make America Great Again," because it's never been great for everybody. But when you pick Truman, I always made these 2 points. When he held up the paper and it said Dewey defeats Truman, Dewey didn't say I didn't lose, and act like Trump did with Biden. He conceded as an American, and Truman won the election. Who do we ever have? Trump did this bullshit with not conceding when he knows he lost the election. But it's also interesting what you said, because Jess told me a story, and if you're a scholar, I don't know how much you've read about Truman. Say it again.
Reading Truman's biography really affected me.
Did
I
you
read
read?
about it.
Did you read the part that he had a Purple Heart in his desk from somebody that blamed him and said, "I'll never forgive you"? I didn't know that.
Truman, what affected me about Truman is why he kept those things with him. But the other thing about Truman is that he honestly didn't want to be president. And I think that or was absolutely overwhelmed by that service or by that calling or whatever you want to call it. And I think for me, I think when I reread that part multiple times about Harry, about President Truman, it really struck with me because I hate politics so much. I despise it on a visceral level. And I always tell people, Brad, I'm like, listen, I don't ever want to run again. I'd rather set myself on fire. I hate it that much. I didn't get into politics till I was 47. However, isn't it the people that really freaking hate it? Aren't those the people who should be trying to run? And every day I go back and forth between, should I do this again? I hate it so much. I hate everything about it. I despise it. But on the other hand, I was fairly good at it. They had to, disenfranchise people to beat me. It's very difficult because I feel like I'm tougher and stronger now outside. I have more pull outside of being some bullshit backbencher in the
Yeah.
GOP, right? When I was in there. But on the other hand, I think I got one more run in me, and I wonder if I can approach it with that kind of humility, and knowing that politics is never a career. Politics needs to be service, and politics needs to be part of why you're an American, not to be who you are as a politician. If somebody goes, Denver, you're a politician, I get angry. I'm like, no, I'm a person who served one term.
Yeah, well, let me ask you a question off of that talking point you just said, and then a couple more questions. We're going to finish up. Why are so many Democrat and Republican going there and becoming so much richer? I mean, I think I know the answer to this, but I want to hear from somebody that was there. Become so much richer as a politician, like Lauren Boebert. How does she get the wealth that she has when it took her like 3 times to get a GED, and she's an idiot? And it's not because she had to take a GED. I'm not knocking that. But she's an idiot. She really is an idiot. She's a dumb fucking person. Whether you agree with me or not, that's okay. But she's a dumb fucking person.
You're not smart.
Yeah.
There's a ripple effect of name, right? For me, like I started a new AI company and I have access everywhere. I'm very good technically, but my name, after being a congressman, writing the book of The Breach, being, what I'm doing right now. I'm always on the news. I have amazing access, and I can leverage that for good or evil, right? That's just what it comes down to. And I think I'm levering that for good because I can utilize my name to start a company that's about AI enhanced technologies to identify bad actors in massive ecosystems, right? That's what I'm doing now. It's called Rig Analytics. I have a team. I got investors. It's fantastic. The flip side of that is, hold on a second. That is really weird. I don't know why my speaker just went off.
This is
so
probably not recording, even though it says recording. I'm telling you, QAnon's coming to get us.
This is crazy. But I think, oh gosh, where was I? I was just talking about
Talking
something.
about levering your name for. I was talking
Yeah.
about people making money.
Yeah, once you're in politics and you have so many lobbyists and you have so many connections, Congress is about lobbying. Congress is about big companies looking for favors and rent seeking. So you always have those connections and you always have that name. So the people that are around you always believe you have special access to help them as a company or a business. So you'll always have the dollars flowing if you leverage it right. And that's just, it's about that name. It's about that being elected. And that's why a lot of people say winning is everything, right? Doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. Doesn't matter if you have any morals. If you win, it seals the deal for you, maybe for a career for monies where you don't have to do a whole lot except going around and, sort of shining your lapels.
Okay. With everything we discussed today, Denver, if you had to sum yourself up as a human being in a few thoughts, what would you say?
I think somebody who means well, does well, still has a lot to learn, and still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. I think that's what it is. But I do believe you'd have to have some. I think if you engage in a fight, whether it's a bar fight that I've been in, whether it's in the military, whether it's political fights, whether it's fights against regulators, whether it's fights against trespassers, whatever the fight you're in, you have to believe you're a good person to do some of the things that you do. So if I were to sum myself up, I would say I'm a guy with faults, but I am a guy that'll stand side by side with those who believe they're doing the right thing based on facts and data. And I fucking hate bullies. And I think if I had to sum up, I am the biggest anti-bully person on earth. And whether you're using politics, force, or money to try to bully somebody, I'm the guy who likes to come in and help the people being bullied. I don't mind getting in that fight.
Okay. Final question. What is your message or your hope? Because this show is all about moving humanity forward. What is your message and what would you like to see for humanity?
I would hope that people would listen. I hope this doesn't sound too goofy, but if you respect and love people as who they are as human beings, I think that would really help those, this new, I would say, atmosphere of hatred that comes from those that think that only their way is the way to live and other people don't belong in that same ecosystem. So I think what it comes down to, can we just sway enough people? Can I sway 1 to 3% of people to say that, hey, don't believe in fantasy or people who will take advantage of you. Believe in facts. Be truth based, no matter what, even if it's hard. I think if we can do that, Brad, I think we can barely save this country if we can just get a few people to come over to our way of thinking. That way of thinking isn't about opinion. It's about looking at sources and truth based facts, right? Or facts based truth, right? That you can actually live your life by and judge others who are trying to maybe manipulate you.
Okay. We'll close out with a few thoughts and then I'm going to give you back the mic to close out completely. Oh, before we do that, social media platforms. Give the viewers your social media platforms.
Oh goodness, I got a couple Twitters at Denver, the number 4 VA, but my big one is at Rep Riggleman on I call it Shitbird with an X. That's Twitter, and then I'm on Threads for Denver Riggleman. I'm on Blue Sky at I think Denver Riggleman. Obviously, I'm on every podcast with the Mighty Peculiar. So Spotify, Apple, Google, all of that. I think through Buzzsprout, we're doing really well there, and YouTube. Go to the Mighty Peculiar Show and subscribe. We got a couple thousand people now that are watching, or subscribing to that. So I'm all over the place. But podcast, YouTube, Shitbird, Twitter, Threads, and Blue Sky. I'm on Facebook personally, but I try not to check that anymore because it's a nut house. So there you go. That's where I'm on.
Okay. I want to thank you, first of all, for coming on the show today. Hopefully something recorded, because if not, I'm blaming fucking QAnon because we had a great almost 2-hour conversation here. If something didn't work, I'm blaming Marjorie Taylor Greene. But I thank you as well for using your platform to push facts out, to dispel so much bad information because so many people buy into this bullshit behind Trump. And to me, it's the worst it's ever been. The last job I had was in the Pentagon, working for psychological operations. I ran a skiff. So even when I hear him talk about having a skiff at Mar-a-Lago, it makes my fucking head explode. We're not building you a skiff, Donald Trump. You could take your bloated ass to a skiff. You don't get special privileges when you took the classified documents to the fucking hotel you run or whatever you call it, whatever it is. But whatever it is. But thank you for moving humanity forward. Thank you for being you and not fucking caring, putting country over party. Because really, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. I'd say both sides, country over party, period. But we're getting further and further and further away from it. Democrats have their issues too, but the Republican Party right now, for me, is running the Kentucky Derby in first place. But the Democrats got a lot to improve on too. So thank you for what you do. I enjoyed doing the research on you. It really touched me that, it showed, I try to tell people, I never had problems with Republicans before Trump. I don't care. I mean, I really don't. If you're pro-life, I'm pro-choice, but if you're against women, like I said the same thing you said, you didn't steal from me, but it's between the woman, the man, and whatever their religion is, their God. It's not up to the court or government to say what a woman can do with her body, period. Even my grandmother, God rest her soul, was Catholic as could be, but she was for a woman's choice to choose, which again was against the church. So again, thank you for using your platform. You have access to me. I want to definitely bring you on again. We could do a whole nother show talking about Twitter, X. I don't call it X, Twitter. But what I want to do now is give you back the mic, close out with anything you want.
Hey, no, thanks for having me. And I'm always humbled that somebody would want to talk to me about anything, honestly, man. And, again, as you know, being in the military up until 47, 46, I was very happy, had sold companies, had properties, loving life, making liquor. So here I am now in some weird, bizarre alternate universe where it feels like I'm trying to help people. Not that I have any special knowledge. The only thing is I've been trained in intelligence work.
But Denver, never sell that you're a SME in what you do. And that can't be taken away. And for the people who don't know what a SME is, a subject matter expert, acronym using military. That's what you are. They could talk about everything else they want, but that's your wheelhouse. It's like I have Glenn Kirshner on my show. He's a good friend of mine. The judicial side is his wheelhouse. Frank Fagluzzi's been on. The FBI part is his wheelhouse. That's the problem with people, especially their side. They speak on shit they don't know because Trump. All because of Trump. It blows my mind. He doesn't give a flying fuck about these people. Nothing.
No, he's a hyperbolic bloviator, right? Yeah. And for me, I am a SME when it comes to I hope that I can utilize the training that the military gave to me in my life and what I did as a CEO and what I had to do to protect people and to target bad guys, to use facts and truth, use facts-based insights. Hope I can impart that as a SME so that people understand when they're being taken advantage of by grifters, bullies, and those who do not have their best interests in mind. That's my goal. That's my objective. And the fact that you would have me on is really humbling, and I appreciate you. And thank you.
Absolutely. On that note, enjoy the rest of the day, and hopefully some of this recorded because I'm going to be mad.
I hope so, Brad. If not, just let me know. We'll do it again.
All right, brother. Take care.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
Folks, that's another episode of the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show on the Ringside Report web TV channel. Denver Riggleman, how do you like that? We used to work together back in the day. I'm looking at him. He's looking at me like, wait a second. We know each other. Small world, folks. Small world. The Intel world, even smaller. So, hey, that was a blast from the past. And I know we'll be talking offline. I'm sure he knows some people that I used to know as well and what they're up to. Got to catch up. So, hey, hit that button and subscribe. Leave your comments below the video. And remember, folks, every act of kindness is a little love we leave behind. Bad Brad out. Thank you for watching the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show. Please follow, subscribe, leave comments, forget about it, and move humanity forward.